Welcome to the very first of the Orlando Sentinel's round of candidate interviews for the November 8th general election. We are starting tonight with the candidates for Seminole County Commission District 4. I'm the Orlando Sentinel's opinion editor, Chris Fluker. I'm joined tonight by our insight editor, Jay Reddick, and our candidates, incumbent Commissioner Amy Lockhart of Sanford. Ms. Lockhart is a Republican who was first elected to the commission in 2018. And Patricia Patty Smith from Lake Mary, who is a Seminole State professor who is running as a nonpartisan candidate. Commissioners are elected to 4-year terms, and they must reside in their districts, but are elected at large. So this is a race where every voter in Seminole County has a chance to weigh in. Just a few guidelines. We have asked our candidates to keep their answers to about 90 seconds, and we're gonna go ahead and jump in. And I will start. And I'll start with an area that Seminole County has a right to be pretty proud of. Over the past few decades, they've gotten a lot of attention. First, partially negative, now mostly positive, for the development of Heathrow as a driver for economic development in the form of corporate offices and headquarters. What's the next step in bringing good jobs to Seminole County? And let's start with the challenger, Ms. Smith.
As far as economic development, from talking to different people, there are some people that are actually adjacent to us in Orange County that have what I call high-tech type companies that actually have Seminole County people driving to Orange County to work. And they had indicated to me that they would definitely be interested in having a possible location in Seminole County. And so I know Heathrow's a primary location. It's great because it's right there by I-4. It has good access and things. But I think there are some other areas we could look at as well, maybe in the Sanford area, for example, or other parts of the county. But again, working with students at the college, I find that a lot of them are concerned about, will they be able to get a high-tech job? Because most of my students are in those fields. So my opinion is that we should try to promote that, maybe offer some incentives, and look at some additional areas where we can provide those locations that people can get to besides just Heathrow. Okay, I'm done. I'm out. Go ahead.
All right, Commissioner Lockhart.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. I really do appreciate the Orlando Sentinel's Editorial Board for hosting these interviews. They're really, really valuable for the community. I think the next step toward economic development and job growth in Seminole County is continuing the great partnerships that we have with Seminole State College and Seminole County Public Schools, listening to the businesses that are already here that are thriving and hearing what it is that they need in terms of workforce development. We are in a phenomenal location with all sorts of opportunities. We know that our A-rated school district, pre-K through 12, attracts businesses. They want to come here because they want their employees to have access to our incredible school system. So working with the Small Business Development Center, the Winter Springs Incubator from UCF, all of these partnerships are really what drives economic growth and workforce development in our region. And we have lots of opportunities, even everything from partnerships with the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association for our entertainment and everything having to do with hospitality, to nursing. We know that we need to develop an incredible team of nurses and folks in the hospital realm for our community to be sustainable.
Thank you, guys. I had a quick question that was, we started with sort of the specific on Heathrow, but I had a little more general question, sort of looking at the county as a whole and what you guys think of the issues there. What would you pinpoint as the single biggest driver of your candidacy? What's the biggest issue that's facing the county right now, and what sort of your short answer toward how you would begin to solve it, I guess. And let's start with Commissioner Lockhart on this.
The economy is huge. We're having really tough economic times, and everything we know costs more. Food, rent, fuel, just the basics, and the financial pressure on our families is real. So I'm committed to keeping property taxes low and fostering an environment where our small businesses and entrepreneurs can thrive by keeping our regulations minimal and our fees low. We're back to basics right now with this economy and the pressures that we have in our families. So that would be my quickest off the top of my head answer.
Thank you. And Ms. Smith.
Okay, so I actually did a survey. I went to one of our Envision 2045 meetings, and everybody posted what they thought the top issues were in Seminole County as far as constraints and opportunities. So I took pictures of all the data and I sat down because I'm a scientist, that's what I do. And honestly, the top thing on the list by far was growth management and overdevelopment. That's what there were more people worried about that than anything else on the list. And then we come to water quality, the rural boundary, and then jobs were down there at about actually number 5. So it appeared that the citizens weren't as concerned about economy. They were concerned more about their neighborhoods are changing. There's more traffic, things like that, that to them lowers their quality of life. And that's something that I was surprised. I thought jobs would be number 1, but it's not. It's actually number 5 when you look at what everyone put on their list. So, and another thing that came up was school systems, which I know we don't specifically do schools, but they're concerned that the schools are crowded and we haven't built any new schools in a long time as well. My granddaughter has attended Geneva Elementary, Lawton Childs Middle, and she's currently at Oviedo High School. And it's, you get to a point where the school's full and there's no place else for the kids to go. So that in turn lowers the quality of the school as well. I used to be a middle school teacher. So to me, it starts in the public schools to have that economic growth, to have that base, as we're talking about, to have the people have the jobs. If they don't have the training, then they can't get the jobs. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually wanted to follow up on the question about the visioning process. I attended a few of those sessions myself, and I'm sure we all did. The question I have is that yes, I did see some concerns about growth, but how does Seminole County balance the need to protect rural areas and the urban growth boundary with the growth boundary with a need to avoid what I guess might be called NIMBYism, with people who don't want to see particular kinds of development in their nearby adjacent areas. And let's start with Professor Smith, and then move to Commissioner Lockhart.
Thank you. I just attended a meeting last week on the Envision 2045, and an interesting part of the presentation was where should the growth be to basically to maximize the tax base. And it wasn't growing neighborhoods, it was growing what I call the inner area, the core areas, because that generated the most revenue. So that was interesting. And also the ideas are that you do the infill, fill in the areas in the urban areas that we have now, and then you're not going out into the rural areas. So the presentation centered on what I consider a major component of development in Seminole County. We call it redevelopment, looking at areas that have, empty spaces where you could put homes or apartments and things like that. But also keep in mind the character of the area as well. Like you said, I don't want to be living in a nice neighborhood and you want to put a high-rise apartment next to me. Yes, I'm going to be upset. So come up with something that would be suitable for that area. But I think the interesting takeaway from the Envision meeting was the idea of how can we generate more property taxes, not from the citizens, because actually houses don't generate as much revenue as, for example, a building that's got businesses in it, et cetera. So to me, that was a very interesting concept. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner?
So the Envision 2045 process is actually a great opportunity for the community to weigh in on what we want Seminole County to look like 25 years down the road. We're very excited that so many folks have decided to participate. It's a part of our evaluation and appraisal report that is due to the state and a part of the rewrite of our comprehensive plan and land development code. So all of this coming together at the same time is a great opportunity. The fact that a third of our county is dedicated to less intense development in the rural boundary means that where we are supposed to have dense development, we need to be really thinking strategically about how to incentivize developers to come in and redevelop that 1792 corridor, that core. And it's so critical for us because that's where our transportation is. That's where the Sunrail is. That's where we're going to be able to have a lot of job growth and folks who will be able to travel throughout the region for jobs. And NIMBYism is tough, right? We've seen a lot of prejudice lately, frankly, against apartments. But apartments are a key part of thousands of people in Seminole County live in apartments. And it's one of the tools in our toolbox to be able to handle density. It's also a way that people can live affordably in Seminole County. So in the right place at the right time, we need to have a variety of choices for our community to live in.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to follow up on that when you talk about affordable housing, transit also comes into play. Do you believe that Seminole County is appropriately invested in links? Is it getting its money's worth? And should it be perhaps trying to leverage more coverage with more investment?
That's a tough question, right? Because no mass transit system pays for itself. And so when you look at the routes that we have and the partnership that we have with Links, there are definitely opportunities to improve, especially comparing us with Sunrail. We have to look at that last mile. You know, once you get off that Sunrail bus, or the Sunrail train, you've got to get on transportation to get where it is you're actually going if it's not in a transit-oriented development right around a station. So we have opportunities to improve our partnership there. And, you know, paratransit, honestly, is what costs us the most in Seminole County. The fixed route transportation with Links is something that certainly can and should be expanded where it's appropriate. But the paratransit is something that we really need to get our arms around.
Thank you, Professor Smith.
Interestingly, I just had this conversation with some other citizens 2 days ago about our transit system and how the Sunrail is actually on the existing railroad bed. There was no new like lines going out to the community or anything like that. It's basically just took over what was already there. And then as far as the link system is concerned, I don't know if you've ridden on the Sunrail, you have limited things around each station. When you get off the Sunrail in Lake Mary, there's an apartment complex and you could maybe walk to the little town center if you want to walk a mile or so, but there's no real job opportunities, et cetera, near these areas. So then we come back to how do you get from the train to my job, which could be 3 or 4 miles away. Okay. And what I don't see, because I drive by that train station almost every day on the way to work, is the bus traffic is what I want to say, not a lot. And it doesn't appear to cover the routes where you see people that need to go to work. For example, we have the Heathrow. We're talking about Heathrow development as an economic area, but how do you get from Sunrail and Lake Mary or Longwood to Heathrow, for example, in a timely manner? That's another issue. So I think it would be good to do what I would call, I hate to say study or survey, but working with transportation consulting firms in the past, we could do an analysis of the number of trips, the people that use it, et cetera, and then make a determination. Maybe we do need to change the routes and Links could work with you on that. But until we do know where people need to go, it's hard to say, oh, start running the buses over here instead of where you are now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to switch gears to health and safety for a minute. I know that we've all been going through the pandemic last couple of years. It's kind of ruled several parts of our lives, and we're still sort of in it. But wanted to ask you both about your opinions on the way that it's been handled in terms of lockdowns and mask mandates and that sort of thing. And what would you do differently the next time this hopefully doesn't happen? Professor Smith, we'll start with you.
So interestingly, I teach biology, college level biology. In biology too, we used to skip the virus chapter. I kind of added it back in because I thought it was important, because a lot of my students want to go in the medical field. It would be nice if you understood how a virus works, right? But what I've noticed is that as far as the mandate and the mask wearing right now, when you go into the college, for example, hardly anybody's wearing a mask. There's no mandates or anything. Everybody seems to feel comfortable, but I think that's because we have the vaccinations available. You know, I don't ask a student, are you vaccinated? I don't ask a person at the store, are you vaccinated? We kind of work under that assumption. But I think in the past, it's hard to say what, I hate to go back and say, what if we did this? Because you don't know. You really can't say, well, if I had everybody had worn a mask and never left their house, nothing would happen. You don't know that. Okay. So I don't like to conjecture on things that I don't have information that could say this is better or worse. But it appeared that the masking helped. But at the same time, for some people, it didn't matter if they wore them or not. So as a person who is aware of, you know, how the vaccines work, how the masking works and things like that, I think it was a measure that was intended to help, but it may not have worked. And honestly, at the college, we're having a book club on the Great Flu of 1918. We're starting that next week, discussions. All right. And so it's again, what if? So I don't like to say this is what I think would have worked better, because I think we did what we could under the circumstances, giving the information that we had available and the materials that we had available. That's it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lockhart, same question to you.
Sure. Well, I wrote an op-ed for the Orlando Sentinel about the mask wearing situation. So I'm kind of already in print on that. You know, I think we did what we needed to do at the time with the information that we had. And certainly the vaccines were a game changer for many people. And once we were able to determine that people could take personal responsibility for their own health and make decisions on their own, I felt that that was when it was appropriate for any local government mandates to be removed. From a policy perspective, we learned that we were not prepared for the difference between an emergency like a hurricane and an emergency like a pandemic that would stretch on for many, many weeks and years, frankly. So we are going back and looking through our continuity of operations plan and some of our emergency management plans to talk about what would be the best structure for Seminole County and for our residents to make decisions in times of an emergency when it is a drawn out length of period of time. We had a structure in place that was perfect for a hurricane. We have our emergency manager that gets in there and can make a decision with an executive team, but there was no opportunity for the 5 Board of County Commissioners who are elected by the citizens to weigh in. The meetings that were being held were not even held in the sunshine. So those were things that our citizens brought to our attention that needed to be addressed, and I think we're working on those.
Thank you very much. We have covered a lot of ground. I did have one more question for you, and then we will go to closing statements. The 1-cent tax for infrastructure is set to be reauthorized in 2024. Do you support reauthorization? And what should the commission be doing over the coming couple of years to prepare for that vote? And let's start with Professor Smith.
Thank you. My personal opinion is that the 1-cent tax should be put to the people for a vote and let them decide if they want to continue it. But at the same time, they should be made aware of what has been, implemented because of the ability to have the tax, and what the potential outcomes are if you don't have the tax, as far as, maintaining roads, maintaining bridges, etc. So I think if people are given the opportunity to see the pros and cons of it and let the people decide, that would be appropriate, rather than the Board of Commissioners saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because what I hear also in my discussions with people is they would prefer to be able to have some more autonomy in making these kind of decisions, because to them it's a tax. No matter what you call it, it's a tax. It's a little bit, but it's a tax. But no one feels that it's been a problem or a hardship so far. So I think that it would highly likely be re-implemented or voted, to continue by the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lockhart.
Yeah, the penny sales tax is an incredibly important part of our infrastructure plan in Seminole County. Right now it is shared 50% by the county. The other half is split equally between the school board and the 7 cities. And it's an infrastructure sales tax. And what I'm hoping we will be able to do is show the citizens how valuable it is to our community, and also allow for an opportunity to reimagine parts of the way this penny sales tax could be used. We have heard loud and clear that natural lands are very important to our community. Libraries are an incredible need right now. The last time our libraries were addressed in this county was in 1985, when we had 200,000 people in Seminole County. We've grown a bit since then, but our libraries haven't. So it's incredibly important that if we can do a listening tour with our community to talk about ways we might be able to reimagine in partnership with the cities and the school board, ways to utilize the penny, if we can use that for the important things and still use it for our infrastructure and transportation like it has been in the past, I think that'd be a win-win. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to start having some of those conversations moving forward. We've learned in Seminole County that we do best when we partner. Partnerships have been an absolute key critical component to the success of this community. So going out for the penny sales tax, which does have to go to the voters in order to be re-upped, is going to be critical, that we're all in the same boat, rowing together in the same direction as public entities. And I think we have the cooperation and the relationships to do that.
Thank you so much. This has been a really great way to kick off our series of interviews for the general election. And I really appreciate the time you took to spend with us. Now, if you could just both take about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to just kind of give us our elevator pitch on why you should be the voter's choice for this district seat. Let's start with the challenger, Professor Smith. Tell us why you think you're the best choice in this race.
I have an experience that no one on the current board has. I know how to read maps. I've worked with developers. I actually worked for the company that's doing the comp plan for Seminole County. They hired me away from someone else. They recruited me to work for them as an environmental scientist. I've worked throughout the state of Florida. I have done major transportation projects. I've worked on Highway 417 environmental permitting. I've worked for the Water Management District. I worked for Seminole County at one time in environmental services. And I also, at the time, did the development review. So I handed the commissioners what they used to read at the meetings. So I understand the process. I've also worked on industrial parks. I've worked on huge projects. I've gotten grants for projects. I've done proposals. I've worked on multiple projects and with lots of people doing many types of things. I believe in collaboration. I believe that we should work together to solve problems. This is how I teach my class. I also have a small business. I'm an environmental consultant. And my business, I found that the quality of my work is what got me business. I never had to advertise. It was just pure networking. Somebody would refer you. So what I realize is when I see these studies that are being done, the companies that are doing the studies, I've worked with those companies in the past myself. We're doing a flood study for the Econ Lochatchee right now. The company that's doing it, I know those guys. The company that's doing the Lake Monroe study, I've worked with them. Okay. The company that's doing the comp plan study, I worked for them. So I understand how these things work. I understand how they're done, and I understand the logic behind them. I also understand that land development issues, which I've heard a lot of citizens have been, well, I want to say dumping on me, but saying, hey, we're upset about this and that a lot of people don't understand the process. They don't understand the legalities of it. They don't understand that just because you don't like it doesn't mean it might not get built. And I think that's part of it is I'm able to talk to people and explain to them in a way that they can understand this is why we have to do it one way and perhaps not the other way. So basically I bring experience, I bring knowledge, and I again bring what I call networking. I already know a lot of people in the business of doing work with the county, and hopefully that will be useful in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lockhart, you have the closing argument.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm excited to continue the work of protecting and improving our environment and the quality of life for our children in our county's future. I think I have consistently shown that I am going to listen first and foremost to what is important to the families of Seminole County. I've consistently voted to protect the rural boundary. I spearheaded the first ever lake restoration project for an entire chain of lakes focused on water quality. And it was a fantastic example of residents and county government working together toward a common goal. I'm committed to expanding that lake management and water quality program through our partnerships with the cities. And so I'm excited to be a part of that. I fully support and fund law enforcement. Our children's safety in our schools are critically important, and the resource officers and deputies that the County Commission helps to fund, protecting those children every day in our schools is something I'm committed to. I'm honored to be endorsed by Sheriff Dennis Lima. Public safety is absolutely local government's most important responsibility. And we're building new fire stations and achieved an ISO rating of 1 this last year. And if you don't know what that means, I can tell you it is a huge deal. We're very proud. Many property insurance companies offer discounted rates for communities with this level of service. So you should check with your insurance company to see if they offer a discount for this new rating. And I'm honored to be endorsed by the Seminole County Professional Firefighters. Serving this community has been truly one of the most rewarding experiences of my professional life. And I'm grateful for the relationships I've built along the way. As a mom who ran for school board because I wanted to advocate for our kids, I learned that our voice is incredibly powerful when we use it for others. So I've translated that passion to local government, and I'm extremely proud of the things that we've been able to accomplish for many of the diverse communities in Seminole County. I believe that we can champion both economic strength and environmental stewardship. The two are not mutually exclusive, and we need to do that to ensure that Seminole County families have a safe, sustainable, and prosperous place to call home. And I do believe that Seminole County is Florida's natural choice.
Thank you. Thank you both. Just to remind voters, this race allows voting at large, so everybody will have the opportunity to weigh in. And it will be on your November 8th ballot. So get ready to go vote. Thank you so much, and I wish the best of luck to both of you.